The truthtellers. China created a story of the pandemic. These people reveal the details Beijing left out by Julia Hollingsworth and Yong. They all had information Beijing wanted wiped from the collective memory. Chan Kun, we know you covered up the outbreak in 2003 and we believe you will cover up the epidemic this year again. One Monday morning, Chen Mei didn't log on for work. It was spring in the Chinese capital, Beijing, and the non-profit organization that the 27-year-old worked for was operating remotely as coronavirus continued its spread. Concerned, Chen Mei's boss called his brother Chen Kun, who hadn't heard from his sibling. Immediately, Chen Kun had a bad feeling. His brother had been republishing sensitive articles about the early days of the pandemic, some of which were later removed by Chinese censors. When Chen Mei's workmate reported his disappearance to the police, officers said he had been taken away for investigation. That was 10 months ago. Chen Kun hasn't seen his brother since. Chen Mei is among a number of truth-tellers the Chinese government has allegedly tried to silence for sharing information that diverges from the official narrative, information that activists allege Beijing wants to wipe from the collective consciousness. Some were doctors who tried to warn of the deadly new virus in Wuhan, or citizen journalists who documented hospitals stretched to breaking point with bodies filed outside. Others, like Chen Mei, tried to preserve evidence of the unfolding crisis online, even in the face of widespread censorship. The truth-tellers laid bare how slow authorities were to warn the public and the world about the enormity of the coronavirus threat. Their stories contrasted with the narrative pushed publicly by the Chinese government that it was on top of the dangerous virus and was preventing its devastating spread. The evidence they sought to share is crucial to understanding the timeline of the virus, so the world can prevent another pandemic of this scale happening again. A year on, the truth-teller's legacy is unclear. Many have paid a heavy price for their work. Some have been detained, others are missing. One even died as he tried to bring the full story to light. Censorship in China. China's internet ecosystem is heavily controlled by the government, but users are always trying to find new ways to evade detection from the censors. Here's how it works. Hover over images below to find out more. Many Western internet sites weren't available in China without a virtual private network called the VPN that helps the users cross the country's best censorship apparatus known as the Great Firewall. There's one error code. All internet users are familiar with 404. It means a page cannot be found in China. That's often because it has been cancelled. To keep content that has been 404 alive, Chinese internet users deploy a range of creative methods without the inflammatory keywords cancers search for. Chen Mei's solution to China's cancer was Terminus 2049, a crowd-sourced repository for sensitive articles that he and his friend Kai Wei co-founded in 2018 on GitHub, a US-earned platform favored by software developers as it allows them to share code and collaborate on projects remotely. To Chen Kun, the purpose of Terminus 2049 was very simple. They wanted people to see the complete picture of these important social events so that they could understand the real China, he said. You are concerning, censoring, I'm archiving. You want it to disappear. I want to save it and spread it. That is the ultimate goal. It was only when Terminus 2049 started memorializing articles about Wuhan that the authorities took action. Meet the truthtellers. Chen Mei was perhaps an unlikely hero of the coronavirus pandemic. Chen Mei, what he did, archived and republished articles about the early days of the coronavirus on Terminus 2049, including interviews with A. Fan and Li Wenjiang and the Kai-Shin investigation into the early days of the outbreak. What happened? Detained on April 19, 2020, and charged with picking quarters and provoking trouble. He is still awaiting trial. A shy but passionate zoology, zoology graduate, he worked for the non-profit that helps people with hearing loss, according to his brother Chen Kun. He loved cats and kept a low profile online, said the friends who asked not to be named out of fear of punishment from the authorities. He was never the initiator of project. He always played the supporting role, said Chan Kun. But with Terminus 2049, he made an exception. You might have to be more cautious about this, Chen Kun remembers telling his brother, reminding Chen Mei that if he could see his post about Terminus 2049, that others could too. Even so, Chen Kun didn't think his brother would be arrested, as what he was doing was relatively conservative compared to other activities. But under China's system of information control, the rules are always shifting. Chen Mei wasn't the truth teller. Explored the tabs to find out more about the others. Chen Qishi, what he found, reported in late January that Wuhan hospitals and doctors were overworked and lacking in supplies. What happened? Mother previously said he had been perceivably quarantined, believed to be in Qingdao, China. Chen Qixi's friend Xiong, a famous mixed martial arts fighters in China, said in a YouTube video that Chen had not been charged and was safe and healthy, but was living under state supervision. Fang Bin, what he found, documented body bag filing up outside the Wuhan hospital. What happened? Went missing after posting a video on February 9, 2020. Has not been heard from since. Location unknown. Believed to be detained. Li Qinghua, what he found, disguised himself as an applicant hoping to work at a Wuhan crematorium and spoke with the recruiters about what would be expected of him so that he could gather evidence of how many people had died, revealed how state security was trying to silence citizen journalists like him. What happened? Posted video on February 26, 2020, where he said he was being chased by state security before going missing. In February, in April, he published a video saying that he had been put into forced quarantine and released the hidden camera footage that he said showed the police coming into his room and taking him away. Chang Chan, what she found, documented harsh realities of Wuhan life between early February 2020 to midday, including overflowing hospitals and empty shops. What happened? Sentences to 4 years in prison for picking quarrels and provoking troubles. Kai Wei, what he did, archived and republished articles about the early days of the coronavirus in Terminus 2049, including interviews with A Fan and Li Wenchang, and the investigation by Chinese media outlet Caixin into the early days of the outbreak. What happened? Charged with the picking quarters and provoking trouble. He is still awaiting trial. I found what she did. One of the first doctors to attempt to raise the alarm on the spread of the new coronavirus in December 2019. Her interview with Chinese media prompted an online movement to fight against the government censorship. I would later become known as the whistle giver. As she told the media, she wasn't the whistleblower, just the one who provided the whistle. What happened? Interviewed by the disciplinary committee of her hospital and accused of spreading rumors. No known punishment appears to still be working as doctor in Wuhan. Li Wenchang, what he did, alerted the fellow doctors about the new SARS-like virus spreading in December 2019, gave media interviews on the early days of the pandemic in January. What happened? Called to the Wuhan polling station on January 3, 2020, where he was reprimanded for spreading rumors on the internet and told to sign a statement acknowledging his misdemeanor. tested positive for coronavirus on February 1st, 2020, and died on February 7th, 2020 from coronavirus. It's not always immediately clear where the red line is for censorship, and because the rules aren't static, some people venture into gray areas in the belief that what they are doing will be tolerated by the government. They hope that they will be lucky enough to avoid censorship and potential punishment. It's really unclear what is legal and what is illegal, a friend of Kon Chan Mei noted. Why would achieving those articles be illegal? When Chen Kun got the fateful call on April 20 from his brother's boss, he was in Indonesia trying to avoid the pandemic. His brother Chen Mei had disappeared alongside Terminus 2049 co-founder Kai Wei and Kai Wei's girlfriend, he soon learned. A few days later, Kai Wei's family received a phone call from the police telling them Kai Wei had been arrested and was under residential surveillance at an undisclosed location. He was suspected of picking quarters and provoking trouble, a charge commonly used to arrest activists in China. Those charges related to two things: building a website on a foreign server and publishing inappropriate remarks online. Kai Wei's father Kai Jianni said. That same day, Chen Mei called his boss and told him he would be out sick for a month. At the beginning of May, Chen Mei's parents received a notice via courier from police, which confirmed their suspicions. Their son was under residential surveillance at a designated location, a system whereby people can be held for up to 6 months without charge. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and State Council Information Office have not responded to requests for comment on case status of Kai Wei and Chen Mei and fellow truthtellers Chen Qishi and Fang Bin. They did not confirm how many people have been detained or prosecuted for sharing information on the pandemic. China's Cybersecurity Administration had not responded to a request for comment on whether archiving and republishing Chinese news report is illegal. Since September, Chen Kun has been living in self-imposed exile in Paris, where he is studying. He believes it's dangerous to return to China, as he has been vocal online about his brother's disappearance. Chen Kun had already spent time in detention in Beijing back in 2014. He said he was arrested after his girlfriend put up posters in the city supporting Hong Kong's pro-democracy umbrella movement. Authorities believed he ordered her to do it. It wasn't my plan to study in Paris, he said. I wouldn't have gone back to China after the pandemic if it weren't for my brother. This is the arrest warrant for Chen Mei issued by Beijing Public Security Bureau in June 12, 2020. He worries for his family left in China, including his mother, who the Chinese authorities has contacted to ask about Chiang Mai's political activities, although he knew nothing. I'm worried, but I don't have any choice. I just have one option, which is to speak out, Chen Kun says. Chen Kun says if people can only see the whitewashed version of history promoted by Chinese government, there will be no way to learn from this current outbreak. Then what was the sacrifice of this year for? He says. Timeline of the initial outbreak. In the year since COVID-19 emerged in China, Beijing has pushed each version of event to the domestic and global audience. But the truth can be found in articles that were archived before concerns swept through Chinese language media. CNN has constructed an unofficial timeline of the first few months of the pandemic based on the report by citizen journalists and the articles posted on GitHub site, including Terminus 2049. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and State Council Information Office has not responded to requests for comment on accusations that officials delayed the warning to Chinese public about COVID-19. Both the bodies and the Cybersecurity Administration did not reply to requests to explain why news reports from the beginning of the pandemic were censored. The official record, December 18, 2019. No official report of the novel coronavirus. What the truthtellers revealed. A 65-year-old delivery man linked to the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan is admitted to Wuhan Central Hospital after developing a fever 3 days earlier. Source Caixin, February 26, 2020. December 24, 2019. No official report about the novel coronavirus. December 24, 2019. A private company is asked to run a genomic test on a swab sample from the deliver man and found a new coronavirus. Source Caixin, February 26, 2020. December 27, 2019. Still no official report about the novel coronavirus. Chang Ji-shan, a respiratory doctor at Hubei Provincial Hospital of Integrate Chinese and Western Medicine in Wuhan, alerted her hospital to 4 unusual phenomena cases. Her actions aren't made public till February, when Chinese state media praises her as the first doctor to report the virus. December 27, 2019. A 41-year-old man with a fever is transferred to the Wuhan Central Hospital for treatment. He has never been to Huanan Seafood Market. Source Caixin, February 26, 2020. December 30, 2019. No official record. December 30, 2019. I found the head of Wuhan Central Hospital's emergency department received a patient test result that read SARS coronavirus. Terrified, fans circled the test report in red and sent a photo of it to doctors in her department. That night, the test result circulates among the city's doctors on Chinese social media app WeChat. One of the doctors who shared the news is Li Wenliang, a 33-year-old from the same hospital. He tells the friends on WeChat that 7 patients from a local seafood market have been dig- diagnosed with a SARS-like illness. That day, the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission tells the city's medical institutions that the series of patients from a local seafood market have an unknown phenomena, but warns them not to release the unauthorized information to the public. Sources: Chinese magazine People, March 10, 2020. Beijing News Daily, January 27, 2020. December 31st, 2019. Chinese authorities notified the World Health Organization, called WHO, about a cluster of pneumonia cases, but do not specify how many are sick or what kinds of virus it might be. Pneumonia. December 31st, 2019. Dr. Lee is reprimanded by his hospital and the local health commission for spreading reports of the virus. Source: Caixin article, January 31st, 2020. January 1st, 2020. Wuhan authorities shut the Huanan seafood market. In a Weibo post, a Wuhan police say it has dealt with 8 rumor mongers according to the law. Images taken by Wuhan residents in December 2019 show animals being sold in the Huanan seafood market before it was closed. Footage from inside the Huanan seafood market filmed by a Wuhan resident. January 2nd, 2020. No official record. January 2nd, 2020. Dr. Fan is reprimanded by Wuhan Central Hospital for sharing information. The Chinese Academy of Sciences Wuhan Institute of Virology sequences the virus. Source: Chinese magazine People, March 10, 2020. Caixin, February 26, 2020. January 3rd, 2020. No official report. January 3rd, 2020. Dr. Lee is told to go to the police station where he is ordered to sign a letter admitting to rumor mongering. Source: Beijing News Daily, January 27th, 2020. A letter Li Wenliang signed at the police station. Source: Li Wenliang. January 5th, 2020. No official report. January 5th, 2020. Shanghai Public Health Clinical Center Professor Yong and his team sequenced the virus genome, and in the document to the National Health Commission, they suggest taking preventative measures at public places. Source Caixin, February 26, 2020. Letter from Chang's team. Source Shanghai Public Health Clinical Center. January 7th, 2020. Chinese President Xi Jinping holds a Politburo standing meeting on how to contain the coronavirus. The meeting isn't made public till it's reported by state media on February 15. Wuhan holds its annual parliamentary meeting between January 6, 2020 and January 10, 2020. There is no mention of the new virus in official discussion sessions. January 9, 2020. Scientists say a new coronavirus is responsible for the outbreak. The same family of viruses behind the SARS and the common cold. January 11th, 2020. China reported the first official coronavirus death. January 11th, 2020. The sequenced genome is posted on open source site biological.org on behalf of the Professor Chang. That allowed the scientists to tell which virus test kits were effective. In the first week of January, Dr. Ai kept quiet, although she warned her husband to avoid busy public places. She tells hospital staff to wear protective gear. When management refuses to let them wear hazmat suit as it would frighten patients, Ai tells them to wear full body protection under their clothes. On January 11th, Dr. Ai learns that a nurse in her emergency room is infected. At the end of the meeting with the hospital's medical affairs administration, the hospital directs her to change the nurse's medical report from 2 lung infections, viral pneumonia, to scattered infections on both lungs. Source Chinese magazine People, March 10th, 2020. January 12, 2020. The Chinese government shares the genetic sequence of COVID-19. Authorities maintain there is no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission and no healthcare workers have been infected. January 12, 2020. Dr. Lee is admitted to hospital. He is later diagnosed with the coronavirus. As more patients arrived at the hospital, Dr. Ai started to believe the virus is transmitting between humans, not from animals, as the authorities have said. Source Chinese magazine People, March 10, 2020. January 14, 2020. The WHO says there is no clear evidence that the virus spreads human to human, citing Chinese officials. January 17, 2020. The WHO reiterated its statement that there are no reports of medical workers contracting the virus. January 19, 2020. The China's National Health Commission says that coronavirus remains preventable and controllable. Wuhan CDC Director Li Kang says on January 19, 2020 that the transmissibility of this new coronavirus is not strong, and the risk of continuous transmission is low. January 20, 2020. Chinese government appointed expert Dr. Chong Nanshan announces on national TV that the virus can transmit from human to human. The virus has already infected more than 300 people, mostly in China, according to official numbers, and spread to more than 3 countries. China is not yet reporting asymptomatic cases. President Xi Jinping, in his first public comments on the coronavirus, ordered resolute efforts to control the outbreak. January 20, 2020. Terminus 2049 posts its first coronavirus related article. A 2003 Time magazine interview with Chinese physician Yong, who exposed how Chinese officials had downplayed the spread of SARS. To Chen Kun, the purpose of reposting that previously cancelled article was obvious. We know you covered up the outbreak in 2003, and we believe you will cover up the epidemic this year again. January 21st, 2020. January No official report. January 21st, 2020. Dr. I's emergency department is swamped. More than 1,500 people arrived at that day, 3 times as many as normal. Of those, 655 have a fever. Doubts crept in about an accuracy of China's reported coronavirus case numbers. Scientists at Imperial College London estimate that by January 18, around 4,000 people were likely to have had symptom onset in Wuhan City alone. Source: Chinese magazine People, March 10, 2020. A nurse shout at people in the hospital corridor in Wuhan. January 22, 2020. The government's official tally of coronavirus cases reached 548. The WHO publicly acknowledges the presence of human-to-human transmission, is publicly positive about Chinese response. January 23, 2020. China takes the unprecedented step of putting Wuhan and some neighboring cities into strict lockdown. At the time, China has reported just over 830 coronavirus cases and 25 deaths. Late January and early February 2020. Skepticism grows over the official narrative. Members of the public begin documenting what they see: overrun hospitals and infections spreading among medics. Some, like lawyers Chen Qishi and Chang Chan, travel to Wuhan to document what's happening. Chen arrives Chen arrives in Wuhan on January 24th, while Chang arrives at the start of February. Both post videos documenting the grim reality online, including to YouTube, a platform, a platform that can only be accessed in China by a virtual private network. Another citizen journalist, Li Chihua, arrived in Wuhan in February and posted videos alleging that the busy crematoriums indicate the death toll is likely higher than the official number. Wuhan businessman Fang Bin posted a video of a corpse piling up outside the hospital. Wuhan writer Fang Fang begins the online journal documenting daily lives under lockdown. 2 months worth of her diary recordings remain preserved on another GitHub site. Lest we forgot Wuhan 2019 and are later turned into a book. Source Terminus 2049. Lest we forget Wuhan 2019. January 24th, 2019, 2020. No official report. January 24th, 2020. Dr. Lee is admitted to the intensive care unit. From there, in the last days of his life, he conducts an interview with the Beijing Youth Daily. It's later censored. Source Beijing Youth Daily interview, January 27th, 2020. Li Wenjiang Liang in an ICU bed. February 4th, 2020. One of China's propaganda chiefs announced that more than 300 journalists had been deployed to Wuhan to publicize how the government makes the preventing and controlling the outbreak a top priority. February 6th, 2020. No official report. February 6th, 2020. Chen Qishi goes missing. Soon, both Fang Bin and Li Jihua disappear too. At night, the news that Dr. Li Wenliang may have spreads across the Chinese social media. State media report that he is dead, but deleted those tweets after the Wuhan Central Hospital released a statement saying Li is being resuscitated. February 7th, 2020. No official report. February 7th, 2020. Officials confirmed the Li's death. There is an outpouring of grief and fury online that poses an extraordinary challenge to Beijing. China begins its crackdown on truthtellers. February 14, 2020. The government says 1,716 health workers have been diagnosed with coronavirus and 6 have died. At the time, China had reported more than 66,000 cases. February 26, 2020. No official report. February 2006, 2020. Chinese media outlet Caixin publishes a story later censored that revealed the account of Wuhan doctor Zhao Su, who spoke of the delivery man being admitted to hospital with a fever. March 2020, Wuhan's top party official announced the government will promote great gratitude education to help citizens thank the Chinese Communist Party for its effort against the virus. This prompted huge backlash and the Wuhan government later apologized and retracted it. March 10, 2020. In a Chinese magazine People interview, Dr. I recounts the experiences detailed above. After I's interview is published in People, China's censors go into overdrive. The article is deleted, but netizens are faster. They preserved the version of the story in English, emojis, and even a version in the video mimicking the Star Wars opening credit. The interview is still on Terminus 2049. Truthtellers' legacy. It wasn't enough to silence the truthtellers. The Chinese Communist Party needed to create its own storyline, both to cover up its initial missteps and deflect the reputational damage caused by China being the country where the first cases were detected. In first step in February was to deploy hundreds of state media journalists to Wuhan to be its eyes and ears on the ground. Although their reports were often censored, they served a dual purpose of helping to gather information for the party, something that often happens during public emergencies in China, said Mary Gallagher, the director of the Center for Chinese Studies at the University of Michigan and an expert in Chinese public politics. For months, Chinese government spokesperson and state media have pushed the narrative that the virus may have originated outside of China. By March, daily cases had fallen to double digits and much of China had emerged from lockdown. By May, China had largely controlled the virus within its own borders and its coronavirus case numbers were quickly dwarfed by skyrocketing numbers in the United States and Europe. In the following months, China seized on that success to push the narrative it had handled the outbreak better than almost any country, proved its authoritarian response were a model to be admired and replicated. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs dismissed criticism that it had cracked down on journalists and doctors, saying the Chinese government has all along conducted its COVID-19 response in an open and transparent manner. With the official truth scrubbed from the Chinese internet, Beijing began to fill that void with alternative timelines that painted China in a more favorable light. Officials promoted baseless arguments that the virus could have started elsewhere including the theory US Army personnel could have brought the virus to China when they came to Wuhan for the Military World Games in October 2019. In January 2021, Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Hua Chunying added legitimacy to the theory coronavirus might have come from another country when she called on the US to invite the WHO to visit American sites so they could study the origins of the virus. Last year, state media seized on studies which found the evidence COVID-19 circulated in Italy as early as September 2019, portraying the report as evidence the virus didn't necessarily originate in China, despite that not being was what its authors suggested. Despite that not being what its authors suggested. In October, China launched an exhibition in Wuhan featuring interactive displays promoting the idea on a heroic response to the virus. Many of the truthtellers, including Chen Mei, Dr. Ai Fan, and the university professor Chang Yong Chen, were nowhere to be seen. The whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang was included in a war of martyrs, but his brief biography didn't include that he'd been reprimanded for trying to warn colleagues about the coronavirus. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and State Council Information Office did not respond to a request to explain why Chinese officials had pushed the narrative that the virus originated outside China, and whether the government was concerned that its actions could discourage doctors and journalists from speaking out about future pandemics. There's evidence that these efforts have been effective within China. A study published in November by international research and data analytics group YouGo Cambridge Globalism Project found that in nearly all countries, the vast majority of people thought COVID-19 originated in China, but in China, more than half said the virus had originated in China, while a third thought it had come from the US. Controlling the narrative has always been important to Chinese leaders, but censorship has tightened under President Xi Jinping, and the party's ability to communicate its own perspective has improved. The connection the CCP don't want the people to make is that freedom of speech can affect not just your livelihood, but your existence, Gallagher said. Controlling the narrative is a way for the Chinese government to demonstrate that it doesn't need to change its political system. The exhibition about China's fighter against COVID-19 at a convention center that was previously a makeshift hospital for coronavirus patients in Wuhan. Displays at the exhibition showing President Xi Jinping That isn't just a problem for people seeking free and fair information in China. It infects the world. How many doctors were going to come out and report the next one? Said Annie Sparrow, an assistant professor of population health science and policy at the Ying School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. COVID-19 has killed more than 2 million people worldwide. Knowing how the pandemic took hold remains key to preventing this from repeating. China's efforts to limit free expression among journalists, activists, and doctors may mean losing precious information about how the virus spread initially, Gallagher said. That seems very short-sighted, Gallagher added. This is going to happen again.